In the hustle and bustle of daily life, we often find ourselves chasing after things, places, or experiences, believing that only in some future moment will we finally find peace. Yet peace is not a destination, it is a state of being available to us right now. The secret lies not in achieving or obtaining anything, but in realizing that the peace we seek is already within us, hidden beneath the layers of distraction and discontent. In our fast-paced, ever-demanding world, peace can seem elusive, often appearing just beyond our reach. We may find ourselves constantly seeking peace in the future, thinking that once we reach a particular goal, acquire a certain possession, or resolve a lingering issue, we will finally find tranquility. Yet, the truth is that peace is not something to be acquired, it is something to be discovered in the present moment. The power of the present moment lies in its ability to offer peace if we can learn to embrace it fully without distraction or resistance. The present moment is the only true reality we can experience. The past has already been and cannot be changed, and the future has yet to arrive. Both the past and the future exist only in our minds. The past holds memories, regrets, and lessons, while the future is filled with hopes, worries, and projections. Yet in the space of the present, there is no past or future, there is only the here and now, a fleeting moment that is filled with infinite potential. If we can learn to immerse ourselves in this moment free from the grip of the past and the anxiety of the future, we discover the key to peace. When we focus on the present moment, we begin to realize that it is in this moment that we have the power to choose how we respond to life. Much of our suffering comes from being stuck in thoughts about what was or what might be. Our minds constantly race through past events or future possibilities, and we get caught up in stories and judgments about them. But when we step fully into the present, we are no longer trapped by the mental noise. We can observe these thoughts from a place of stillness and detachment instead of identifying with them. This shift in perspective is where peace is found. Living in the present moment requires a shift in consciousness. It asks us to let go of the need for constant distraction and to focus on what is happening right now. This doesn't mean ignoring responsibilities or neglecting to plan for the future, but rather recognizing that the future can only be shaped through our actions in the present. The more we give our attention to the present moment, the more we realize how much power we have over our experience of life. We begin to see that peace is not something that exists outside of us or something to be attained. It is a state of being that is always available to us, if only we choose to enter into it. One of the most profound ways to experience the present moment is through mindfulness. This practice involves paying close attention to what is happening right here, right now. Whether it's the sensation of your breath, the sound of birds outside, or the feeling of your feet on the ground, mindfulness invites us to fully experience whatever is unfolding without judgment or distraction. It is an invitation to stop rushing through life, to pause and truly be with what is. When we practice mindfulness, we begin to notice how much of our mental energy is spent on things that are either in the past or the future. When we become aware of this, we can gently bring our focus back to the present, where peace is always available. Another important aspect of the present moment is acceptance. Often we resist what is happening in the here and now. We wish things were different, or we fight against the reality we are facing. But resistance only creates tension, stress, and frustration. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity or resignation, it means acknowledging and embracing what is without judgment. When we accept the present moment as it is, we allow life to flow through us rather than resisting it. In this flow, peace arises naturally. The more we practice being present, the more we begin to realize that peace does not come from external circumstances. It doesn't depend on where we are, who we are with, or what we are doing. Peace is found within us when we stop searching outside ourselves and begin to anchor ourselves in the present. The present moment is not just a passing instant, it is a gateway to a deeper experience of life, one that is always available, always here, and always ready to bring us peace. In conclusion, the power of the present moment lies in its simplicity and its immediacy. It is the only moment where life is truly happening, and it is the only moment in which peace can be found. By learning to focus on the present, accepting what is, and practicing mindfulness, we open ourselves to a life of inner calm and tranquility. Peace is not a distant goal, it is a way of being that we can choose in every moment, right here, right now. The ego is a construct, a mental and emotional framework that creates the false sense of self that we cling to. It is the voice in our heads that identifies with our thoughts, our body, our roles in society, and our possessions. It is the part of us that judges, compares, and strives for validation, often leading to feelings of inadequacy, frustration, or superiority. The ego is not our true self, but rather a collection of conditioned beliefs and patterns that arise from the need to define ourselves in relation to the outside world. Peace, however, can never be found in the ego. In fact, the more we identify with the ego, the more we create inner conflict. The ego thrives on division. It separates us from others, makes us feel either superior or inferior, and keeps us attached to external sources of validation. But peace, true peace, arises when we let go of this false identity. It comes when we stop believing that we are our thoughts, our achievements, or our fears. When we release our identification with the ego, we return to the stillness and clarity of our true nature, which is always peaceful. To begin the process of letting go of the ego, it's important to understand how the ego operates. The ego's primary desire is to maintain a sense of separateness. It constantly reinforces the belief that we are an individual, separate from everyone and everything around us. It creates labels, I am this, I am that, and becomes attached to these labels. It might be the identity of being a successful professional, a parent, an athlete, or even a victim. The ego needs to constantly compare and define itself in relation to others in order to feel validated. This constant striving creates tension because the ego is never satisfied. It always wants more. It wants to be recognized. It wants to be special. It wants to be in control. One of the most profound realizations is that the ego is not who we truly are. Our true essence is not defined by what we do, what we own, or how others perceive us. Our true self is something deeper, more subtle, and more expansive. It is the silent awareness that observes our thoughts and experiences without getting caught up in them. It is the stillness that exists beyond the noise of the mind. When we begin to realize that we are not the ego, we start to experience a deeper sense of peace. The ego is also driven by fear. It is rooted in the need to protect itself, to defend its identity, and to avoid threats to its existence. This fear can manifest in various ways through anxiety, insecurity, and the constant need for approval from others. Fear-based thinking keeps us stuck in a cycle of seeking validation and trying to control external circumstances in order to feel secure. But peace can never be found in fear. Peace exists when we release the need to control, to protect, or to prove ourselves. It exists when we trust in the flow of life and allow things to be as they are, without the need to attach meaning or judgment to every situation. Letting go of the ego is not about denying who we are or rejecting the roles we play in life. It's about realizing that these roles are not the essence of who we are, they are simply aspects of our experience. We can be a parent, a friend, or a colleague without being defined by these roles. We can have desires, ambitions, and goals, but we no longer need to tie our sense of self-worth to the outcome of these pursuits. When we release the ego's hold, we begin to live more authentically, free from the need to impress, to compete, or to conform. A powerful practice in letting go of the ego is the cultivation of mindfulness and self-awareness. The more we observe our thoughts and behaviors without judgment, the more we begin to see the patterns of the ego. When we are aware of these patterns, we can consciously choose to step back from them. Instead of reacting to situations out of fear or the need to protect our ego, we can respond with clarity, compassion, and equanimity. We begin to understand that we are not our thoughts, our emotions, or our reactions. They are just passing phenomena. Our true self is the awareness behind them, which is always calm, always present, and always at peace. Ultimately, letting go of the ego is about returning to a state of wholeness. When we stop clinging to the false sense of self that the ego creates, we recognize that we are already complete, just as we are. There is nothing to prove, nothing to achieve, and nothing to protect. Peace comes when we stop fighting against the flow of life, when we stop identifying with the stories the mind tells us, and when we allow ourselves to simply be. The process of letting go of the ego is a journey, not a destination. It requires ongoing self-awareness, acceptance, and the willingness to question the beliefs and patterns that we have held for so long. But the reward is worth it. The peace that arises when we are no longer bound by the ego's grip is profound, freeing, and deeply fulfilling. Peace is not something we gain, it is something we uncover when we let go of everything we thought we were. The mind is constantly active. It is a relentless stream of thoughts, ideas, memories, judgments, and anticipations. This ceaseless flow can often feel overwhelming, leading to stress, confusion, and inner turmoil. We may feel as though we are trapped inside our minds, constantly reacting to the thoughts that arise, believing every thought is true and every emotion it stirs is justified. However, true peace is found when we realize that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness that observes these thoughts. This simple but profound shift in perspective is the key to finding inner tranquility. The first step in cultivating peace through awareness of thoughts is recognizing that we are not our thoughts. Thoughts come and go, they are transient and fleeting. Yet most of us have been conditioned to identify with them as if they define who we are. We believe that the thought "I am not good enough" is a reflection of our true nature, when in reality it is just a thought and idea that passes through the mind. Similarly, thoughts about the past or the future, regret, longing, worry can feel like they define us, but they too are just mental events. When we attach ourselves to these thoughts, we become entangled in the stories they create, often causing suffering and dissatisfaction. The key to freedom is to step back and observe these thoughts without identifying with them. Think of your mind as a busy street with a constant flow of traffic. If you stand on the sidewalk and simply observe the cars passing by, they are just vehicles going by. They don't touch you or affect you. In the same way, thoughts are like cars on the mental street, and we can choose to observe them without getting into the driver's seat. When we detach ourselves from the idea that we are our thoughts, we allow ourselves to experience the stillness that exists beneath the mental noise. This shift in awareness requires practice. Mindfulness is a powerful tool for cultivating awareness of thoughts. Mindfulness involves paying close attention to the present moment, without judgment or distraction. By bringing our attention to the here and now, we begin to notice the thoughts that arise in our minds. We don't need to try to stop the thoughts or judge them. Instead, we simply observe them as they come and go. When we become aware of a thought, we can pause and ask ourselves, is this thought true? Is it necessary? How does it make me feel? Often we find that the vast majority of our thoughts are either irrelevant or based on past experiences or future anxieties that have no real bearing on the present moment. As we observe our thoughts, we also begin to notice patterns. Our minds tend to repeat the same thoughts over and over, especially negative or self-critical ones. These repetitive thoughts can create a cycle of worry, stress, and dissatisfaction. Awareness of these patterns is the first step toward breaking free from them. Once we become conscious of these recurring thoughts, we can choose not to engage with them. We can let them pass like clouds in the sky without attaching meaning or emotion to them. This is the beginning of freeing ourselves from the tyranny of the mind. In addition to observing our thoughts, we must also learn not to react to them automatically. Often we have an instinctual reaction to a thought. Perhaps we get angry when we think about something someone did, or we become anxious about a situation we are anticipating. These automatic reactions create a chain of mental and emotional activity that can spiral out of control. But when we become aware of this process, we can interrupt it. Instead of reacting immediately, we can pause, take a breath, and ask ourselves whether we really need to respond to the thought in the way we usually do. In this space between the thought and the reaction, we have the freedom to choose a different response, one that is more grounded and peaceful. Mindfulness also invites us to bring our attention to the sensations in our bodies. Often when we are caught up in our thoughts, we become disconnected from our physical presence. The body, however, is always in the present moment. It feels the sensations of the here and now, whether it's the warmth of the sun on our skin or the sensation of our breath moving in and out. When we reconnect with our bodies, we ground ourselves in the present and break free from the grip of the mind. Another powerful tool for cultivating awareness of thoughts is meditation. Meditation provides a dedicated time and space to practice observing our thoughts without judgment. In meditation, we sit quietly and allow our thoughts to arise naturally. The goal is not to stop thinking, because that is impossible, but to become aware of the thoughts and gently return our attention to the present moment whenever we get lost in them. Over time, the practice of meditation strengthens our ability to observe our thoughts with more clarity and less attachment. When we are aware of our thoughts, we shift from being victims of our mental patterns to becoming the conscious creators of our experience. We begin to understand that we do not have to believe every thought, nor do we have to react to every emotion that arises. We become the peaceful witness to the mental activity instead of being entangled in it. This awareness of thoughts creates a sense of freedom and space in the mind, allowing peace to emerge naturally. In conclusion, the awareness of thoughts is a powerful practice that allows us to step out of the mind's endless chatter and reconnect with the present moment. By observing our thoughts without judgment and choosing not to react automatically, we free ourselves from the control of the ego and create space for peace. When we remember that we are not our thoughts, we create the conditions for a deeper, more profound sense of inner calm and tranquility. In our pursuit of peace, one of the most challenging yet transformative practices is surrender. Surrender does not mean giving up or resigning ourselves to a life of passivity or helplessness. It is not about abandoning hope or effort. Instead, surrender is about releasing our resistance to what is happening in the present moment and accepting life as it unfolds. It is about letting go of the need to control every aspect of our experience and trusting that life, in its natural flow, is exactly as it needs to be. We live in a world that constantly reinforces the need to control. From the way we structure our days to the way we try to shape our circumstances, we often feel as though we must actively manage every part of our lives in order to feel secure or at peace. This need to control can create an undercurrent of tension and stress. We become so fixated on how we want things to be that we forget to fully engage with life as it actually is. We resist the natural flow of events, and in doing so, we create conflict within ourselves. The truth is, resistance to what is happening in the present moment is the source of much of our suffering. When we practice surrender, we are choosing to stop fighting life. We are choosing to let go of our attachment to outcomes, to judgments, and to expectations. It is a conscious decision to accept the way things are without necessarily agreeing with them or liking them. Surrender is the act of saying, this is what is happening right now, and I will accept it, I will not resist it, I will flow with it, even if I don't understand it. This does not mean that we give up on taking action or striving for goals. Surrender is not the absence of effort, it is the absence of forceful attachment to a particular outcome. It is the willingness to act in alignment with what is, rather than pushing against it. For example, if we are facing a difficult situation, surrendering does not mean giving up on resolving the situation. It means accepting the reality of the difficulty in the present moment without fighting it, and then taking appropriate action from a place of inner peace and clarity, rather than anxiety or resistance. Surrender can feel counterintuitive because we are conditioned to believe that we must control everything in order to ensure our happiness. We believe that peace can only come when things are the way we want them to be. But in reality, peace arises when we accept life as it is, with all of its uncertainties, challenges, and imperfections. When we let go of the need to control the uncontrollable, we experience a deep sense of relief and freedom. We stop struggling against the current, and instead we allow ourselves to be carried by it. The act of surrender is rooted in trust. It is about trusting life, trusting the process of living, and trusting ourselves. It requires the understanding that we do not need to force our way through life, nor do we need to hold on tightly to any particular outcome. Life is unfolding in its own way, and we are a part of that flow. Surrender means recognizing that there is an intelligence greater than the mind that is guiding us, even when we can't always see or understand the bigger picture. One of the most powerful ways to practice surrender is by accepting the things we cannot change. There are aspects of life that are beyond our control, other people's actions, the weather, the flow of time, the cycles of nature. When we resist these things, we create unnecessary stress. But when we let go of our need to control the uncontrollable, we open ourselves to peace. Instead of wasting energy trying to change what cannot be changed, we direct our energy toward what we can influence: our responses, our attitude, and our actions. Another way to practice surrender is by letting go of attachment to the future. Much of our stress arises from worrying about what may happen in the future. We get caught in cycles of anxiety about things that have not yet happened. When we surrender to the present moment, we stop projecting ourselves into the future and instead embrace the now. The present moment is all we ever truly have. Surrendering to it means fully inhabiting this moment without dwelling on what could go wrong or what needs to happen next. In relationships, surrendering can also be a profound way to experience peace. Often we try to control how others behave or react, but this leads to frustration and misunderstanding. Surrendering in relationships means accepting others as they are, without trying to change them or force them to meet our expectations. It means allowing people to be themselves and recognizing that the only person we can truly control is ourselves. By letting go of the need to control others, we open ourselves up to deeper connection and peace. Surrender is not about being passive, nor is it about avoiding responsibility. Rather, it is about letting go of the inner struggle and the need for perfection while still being actively engaged in life. It is about accepting that life is an unpredictable, ever-changing flow and choosing to meet it with grace, openness, and trust. When we surrender to what is, we stop fighting against the current and start flowing with it. In that flow, we discover the peace that is always present, waiting for us to release our resistance and embrace the moment. In conclusion, surrender is the key to finding peace in the midst of life's challenges. By letting go of resistance, attachment, and the need for control, we allow ourselves to align with the natural flow of life. Surrender does not mean giving up, it means embracing life as it is and trusting that everything is unfolding as it should. In surrendering, we find freedom, peace, and a deeper connection to the present moment. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forces for peace in our lives. It is a mindset, a way of being, that shifts our focus from what we lack to what we already have. In a world that often promotes a mentality of scarcity where we are told we need more, do more, do more, achieve more, gratitude serves as a reminder that peace arises when we recognize and appreciate the abundance that already exists in our lives. By embracing gratitude and acceptance, we open ourselves to the present moment, find joy in the ordinary, and cultivate a deeper sense of fulfillment. Gratitude is not simply about saying thank you for the things we have or the experiences we encounter. It is about cultivating a mindset that recognizes the inherent value in everything, even in the most challenging of situations. When we practice gratitude, we shift from a mindset of deficiency where we feel like something is missing to a mindset of abundance where we understand that everything we need to experience peace and contentment is already present within us and around us. In every moment, we are surrounded by countless blessings, many of which we take for granted. The simple act of being alive is a miracle. The gift of breath, the ability to see, hear, and feel, these are things we often overlook. Yet when we practice gratitude, we begin to see the richness of life in its smallest details. We become aware of the beauty in nature, the kindness of others, the love we share with those close to us, and even the challenges that allow us to grow and learn. Gratitude helps us see life through a lens of appreciation rather than judgment, recognizing the inherent goodness in all things. One of the most profound benefits of gratitude is that it brings us into the present moment. We often spend our time either ruminating on the past or anxiously anticipating the future, but gratitude forces us to slow down and appreciate what is right in front of us. It anchors us in the here and now, where peace resides. When we take time each day to reflect on the things we are grateful for, we train our minds to focus on what we have rather than what we lack. This simple practice has the power to transform our entire outlook on life, leading us to a greater sense of peace, contentment, and fulfillment. Gratitude also allows us to embrace acceptance. Acceptance does not mean resignation or passivity. It is the recognition that life in its entirety is unfolding as it is meant to. Acceptance is about acknowledging reality without judgment or resistance. It means letting go of the need to control everything and trusting that the present moment is exactly as it should be. This doesn't mean that we don't strive to improve our lives or take action toward our goals. It simply means that we stop fighting against what is, and instead we embrace it. In many ways, gratitude and acceptance are two sides of the same coin. Gratitude encourages us to appreciate what we have, while acceptance encourages us to let go of what we cannot control. Both practices are essential to finding peace in our everyday lives. So, when we accept things as they are, without trying to change or resist them, we free ourselves from the mental struggle that so often leads to stress and dissatisfaction. Instead of wishing that life were different, we embrace what is and find peace in the moment. This acceptance allows gratitude to flourish as we begin to appreciate the fullness of life exactly as it is. Gratitude can also be transformative in our relationships. When we approach others with a sense of gratitude, we shift from focusing on what they can give us or how they should behave to appreciating them for who they are, as they are. We begin to see the beauty in their uniqueness, and our relationships become less about expectations and more about genuine connection. Instead of focusing on what is lacking or what frustrates us, we can practice gratitude for the ways in which others enrich our lives, no matter how small or simple the gestures may seem. One of the simplest ways to cultivate gratitude is to establish a regular practice of reflection. This could be through keeping a gratitude journal, where you write down a few things each day that you are thankful for. It could also be through taking a few moments each morning or evening to quietly reflect on the blessings in your life. The key is consistency. The more we practice gratitude, the more it becomes a natural way of seeing the world. Over time, it becomes easier to find gratitude in even the most difficult circumstances, as we begin to recognize that every experience holds some form of gift or lesson. In addition, practicing gratitude helps to shift our perspective on challenges. Life will always present us with obstacles, but when we approach these challenges with gratitude, we can find meaning and growth within them. Rather than seeing difficulties as burdens, we begin to see them as opportunities for learning, for growth, and for greater resilience. This shift in perspective can turn even the most painful experiences into sources of wisdom and strength, leading us to a deeper sense of peace and understanding. In conclusion, gratitude and acceptance are two of the most powerful tools for cultivating peace in our everyday lives. By focusing on what we have rather than what we lack, and by accepting life as it is, rather than constantly wishing for something different, we align ourselves with the flow of the present moment. Gratitude allows us to appreciate the richness of life, while acceptance frees us from the struggle against reality. Together, these practices lead to a profound sense of peace, fulfillment, and contentment, reminding us that peace is not something to be sought outside of ourselves, but something to be recognized and embraced within our own hearts. In conclusion, finding peace in our everyday lives is a journey of awakening to the present moment, embracing life as it is, and cultivating practices that bring us back to our true essence. Through mindfulness and awareness, we learn to observe our thoughts without attachment, recognizing that we are not defined by them. Letting go of the ego allows us to free ourselves from the endless cycle of comparison and self-judgment, creating space for deeper peace. Surrendering to what is invites us to trust the flow of life, letting go of the need for control and accepting the present moment as it unfolds. Gratitude and acceptance empower us to appreciate the abundance in our lives, shift our focus from what is lacking to what is present, and embrace life's challenges with a sense of purpose and growth. As we practice these principles, peace becomes less of a destination and more of a natural state of being available to us in every moment. It is not something that we acquire or achieve, but something we uncover when we release resistance, judgment, and the need for control. True peace arises when we let go of our mental attachments and return to the simplicity of being present, accepting, and grateful. In this space, we find serenity, clarity, and joy in the everyday moments, and we come to realize that peace is always within us, waiting to be discovered.